It's time for another sea story with Mr. Durite. Take it away, Mr. Durite. I think they're ready for it.
Welcome back to Sea Stories with Mr. Durite. I am your host, Mr. Durite, and today we have a special show for you, ladies and gentlemen. I hope there's some ladies in the audience. I'm not sure yet, but the ballots are still out. But anyway, we have a special show for you. We have a special guest. Finally, I have a guest on my show, and I'm not the only person telling stories. Hallelujah. Today, we have Bill Nowicki. You may know Bill from Submarine Sea Story podcast, which is a pretty good show. You need to check it out if you ain't checking it out. I also did a podcast interview, and you should be checking that out too, because if you're looking at this, you should be listening to that. Sea Stories are Sea Stories. Right. All right then. So, with no further ado, I will shut my mouth, and I will let Bill take over. Go ahead, take it away, Bill.
Well, I want to thank you, Mr. Durite, for allowing me on your program today. Hey, I have a story, and it's about me, and I know you talk a lot about your shipmates, but this is all me, buddy. You ready?
I am ready.
Hit
it.
This one's called 7 and 7s and Cheese Popcorn. Okay, here it goes. When I was in Great Lakes up in Illinois, I had just gotten out of boot camp. My girlfriend had broken up with me. I was a little bit lonely. And as you know, in Great Lakes, I think the ratio was 32 guys to 1 girl. So things weren't looking up. But one of my good buddies from class, he was married. And his wife was going to college. And he said, "Hey, Bill, there's a couple other guys. We're going to go to a hotel. And it's going to meet my wife, and she's bringing a couple of girls from college. Would you like to go?" And I said, "Hell yeah, I want to go." So, and this is in Kenosha, Wisconsin. It's a beautiful area, as you well know. And so I went, and, you know, the ladies weren't half bad looking. Now, I think they were right in my sweet spot in terms of not being too great, and they weren't hideous. So they were right in the sweet spot, and I was going to go for it, you know. Well, they asked me what I wanted to drink, and I said 7 and 7s. Well, you know, we tried to do a little bit of games, so we decided to play, I think it's called Liar's Poker or Bullshit Poker. And so we started playing that. You remember that game? You've probably played it, right, Mr. Durite?
Oh yes, and that was my whole training command at the torpedo shop.
Well, I could have used some help, but anyway, I started off great. I was winning, and I was even taking hits off my drink. I was winning so much that I was not nervous or scared or anything. Well, suffice it to say, things started going downhill. And we didn't have much to eat, so the only thing we brought the booze and the ice, and we had put like ice in the bathroom, and, you know, in the sink, because that's the only sink they had or any place to store a lot of ice. So we threw ice in the sink in the bathroom. So I would go in there periodically, fill up my glass with ice and put more 7 and 7, and then drink and eat cheese popcorn, you know, sitting there on the floor playing this Liar's Poker. Well, make a long story short, I started to lose, and I lost. I started to lose pretty badly. And I thought I was still fine until I stood up to go get another drink to refill my glass. And then things started getting pretty blurry, and I was swaying. But I knew the ice was where. I told you where the ice was. In the bathroom.
Yeah, you said it was in the sink.
Yeah, but in the bathroom.
Right. Which I'm kind of, it's like, I hope they didn't put, like, you know how at the bar they put ice in the trough, in the urinals to keep the smell down? And I'm just praying that nobody was peeing in the sink.
No. No, not that. Hey, listen, I had not been on a submarine yet, so we were pretty much straight, you know. So everything was going perfectly. Except when I got up, like I said, I was feeling queasy, but I went to go get ice, so I swung the bathroom door open, and one of the young ladies was in there using the bathroom. And then everything started really going downhill. She started screaming at the top of her lungs because I was just standing there looking at her using the bathroom. And my friend, who was still had it, who's still with it, looked over and saw me standing there, and like I was frozen for whatever reason, and he grabs me and pulls me away. So she quit screaming, but I knew at that point things were not going to go well. But I continued to...
You should have just kept playing bullshit.
Well, I should have. And I think I did. I went back to eating the cheese popcorn and drinking the 7 and 7s. But at that point, things that I knew I wasn't feeling that well, and my hands were full. You get that orange stuff on your hands from eating the cheese popcorn. It was not going well. So then I started getting a little queasy. And my buddy told me, he said, it was at that point you were just bouncing off the walls. So they took me out of that room and took me to our room. And then I proceeded to release the cheese popcorn into the toilet along with the 7 and 7. And the orange colored toilet water was flushed many times. But there was help on the way. This is the part that I still to this day don't know. One of the guys that he said that, hey, I know what's going to help him feel better. He should smoke a cigarette. Now, I'd never smoked a cigarette in my life. So the dude put this cigarette up to my mouth. And by this time, I was laying in the bed, and he put the cigarette in my mouth and lit it. And then he said, now smoke, smoke. And they said, it was almost like a dying man where you could barely see my chest going up and down. And I got a couple puffs in, but needless to say, I didn't, that was the end of the night for me. I didn't find love. I just found 7 and 7s and cheese popcorn. And the next morning I felt like crap. And then I had to see these young ladies at breakfast, and suffice it to say, I was not, it didn't work out. I mean, it was a total bust. Never saw them again. And I went back to my lonely ways at Great Lakes. So that's my story.
You didn't get no phone numbers?
Nothing. I was too embarrassed at that point. The whole thing was just, I couldn't recover.
Now, you would have redeemed yourself if you would have went back. Even if that same night you could have had puke all over your face. Say, well, you know what? You're going to give me your number anyway? And she probably gave it to you just for the sheer fact you had the balls enough to go up to her and ask.
Well, I don't, to be honest with you, I don't think I could speak. By the end of the night, man. I don't think I could form words anymore. But that's my story, Mr. Durite.
And that was a good story, man. I appreciate it. You know what? I'm going to piggyback on your story, and I'm going to tell a little quick story, real quick.
Great.
It's hard for me to tell a quick story. But
well, see,
I got this quick story.
Sparked your memory. I've sparked your memory. Now you're starting to remember based on my cheese popcorn and 7 and 7. You must have something similar in there.
That's usually how it works with me. Somebody will say something. They'll say sassafras. I'm like, you know what? That reminds me of a sea story. We were in England, and we were at this club. It was, matter of fact, it's my first video of fight night in England. It was the same night, and after the fight was over with, and everybody was starting to settle in. I was up there on the stage dancing as I normally do, just dancing. I don't know why I dance so much. I feel like I'm a boogie woogie man or something. But I had a friend, and me and him were staying in the same room. And he said, hey man, I'm gonna be over here with these guys real quick. Just finish dancing and come back and get me, and we'll go back to the room. I'm like, cool. So I go back. I'm sitting up here dancing a little bit. Like, all right, it's time to go. It's 2 o'clock in the morning. It's time to hit the hay. I look over, and I don't know what they did. They must have took a tequila bottle and stuck it down his throat, because in the 15 minutes I was dancing, he went from straight, talking normal, sober, to like walking on the top of his feet. And he wasn't a small guy. He was a big guy. You don't want a big guy walking on top of his feet. And I'm like, what happened to you? And the people just looking at him. He had too much tequila. I'm like, how he had too much tequila in 15 minutes, right? So we drag him out of the club, and we think, okay, we just gonna drag him, put him in the cab. We gonna get to the hotel, and that's gonna be it. But oh no, you know, drunk people are unreasonable. And he wanted to stop and get some fish and chips. And I'm like, well, that's a good idea. I can take a little food in my belly. I'll try that. So we got some fish and chips. He scoffed down the whole thing, blah, 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 blah. Because, you know, fish and chips in England, fish is about that big, you know. And they give you like a bushel basket of fries. So he ate all of that. Now, he's drunk as a skunk, tequila on the stomach, all this food on it. And now we jerking him around and everything, throw him in the cab, bring him up the stairs, because I don't know, I think the English have problems with elevators. So we get to the room, and as soon as he walks in the room, he says, oh man, I'm not going to make it. I said, you better make it to the bathroom. I'm not going to make it that far. And it was funny, because this hotel had shag carpet, and that dude puked all over that shag carpet. And he hit the floor on all fours, he puked, and then he proceeded to go to sleep right there in the puke. And he woke up the next morning with crusted puke all on the side of his face. Oh, and I was like, well, you did it, you clean it.
You did not clean that man up. I
Chips.
can't believe it.
So, yep. I try to keep it short. I don't know if it was sweet, but yeah, that's my drunk story. I didn't get drunk that much when I was on the boat, so I don't have too many tales of me getting drunk. So when I did get drunk,
a smart man.
I don't normally drink, but when I do drink,
nothing good comes of that stuff. Let me tell you.
Oh no! I think every sea story starts with this one time when we were drunk.
That's true. That is true.
This one time when we were drinking, and anytime somebody went to jail, well, I don't know why we went to jail. All we were doing was drinking.
I would quit for a while and then say, I'm never going to do it. And then I would go back and do it again. Yep. That's just the way it was.
Yeah, because you always say, God, if you get me out of this, I'll never drink again.
I felt so bad.
And then you'd be sitting in the bar, and God comes sit up there and pull up a stool on the side of you, and what you doing? What happened? You know? Anything else you want to add to it, Bill?
I will say I haven't had a 7 and 7. That was the last night I ever drank 7 and 7s. I still eat cheese popcorn periodically, but not the 7 and 7s.
You know I was about to ask you, right? You just can't leave that cheese popcorn alone.
No, that's good stuff.
He's sitting up there getting orange fingerprints on everything. You better not try to do no crime after you eat no orange popcorn, because you busted. You got fingerprints on the murder weapon.
All right, that's true.
They just followed the trail down the street looking for you.
The cheese popcorn murderer. That would not work.
Live at 11. The police are still searching for the popcorn murderer. Yes, sir, man. Bill, I appreciate you being on my show today. Man, this was brand new to me. You don't even know all the stuff we had to go through just to get this. I ought to take a picture of what I had to rig up just to make this happen. And two, it is so nice to have somebody to talk to, even though you're virtual, you know?
That's right. It's always nice. Yep.
Oh, this is some good stuff. I like this. And we need to keep this going. And I think I'm going to have Bill on here again one day, you know, when I'm better prepared and I'm not all jacked up. Maybe I'll get my qual card done and get qualified and I'll put out a better video. But, hey, man, give me a break.
You got to start somewhere, and I appreciate you having me on. This was great.
Oh, man, and you know what? I also appreciate you having me on your show. And I'm going to put a link up here to my show. I'm also going to put a link to Bill's stuff. And I'll put a link down in the comment section below so you can check out Bill's podcast. Because if you ain't checking it out, you know you're wrong, shipmate. You need to be getting on that, because C stories are C stories and C stories, right? If you like mine, you don't like his. You like his, you gonna like mine, right? So let's hook everybody up. We brothers of the fin. Let's make it happen. You see, he got his dolphins on. You see, he got those dolphins on. So let's make it happen. So I'm gonna wrap this up. This is C Stories with Mr. Durite. I'm your host, Mr. Durite, featuring Bill Nowicki. God dog, I said his name wrong. Did I say it? I said it wrong, didn't I?
That's close.
Nowicki. That's how you say it. Nowicki. You know what? You know what it is that's messing me up? It's Transformers. That's what's messing me up. You don't get it, do you?
No. I don't have any clue.
Anyway, yeah, my special guest, Bill Nowicki, and we will check you out next time. Peace.
Hi, I'm Bill Nowicki. I believe we live in a complicated, noisy world, and because of that, some people get stuck. They don't know how to make their juices flow, and over time, they don't know any way to do it differently. I know I was one of those people. I believe that if people find their voice and understand their skills, they can transform their lives, no matter what age or where they're located. But let me tell you my story. You see, I was in a submarine in the 80s during the Cold War, and I spent 25 years in the commercial nuclear power industry. Last year I found podcasting, and I decided to launch my own show called Submarine Sea Stories, where veterans like me share their stories, the funny, sad, and scary moments that happen on board a nuclear attack submarine. Now I'm on a mission to build this brand and reach more people. I'm using this platform to reach and help vets of all ages reinvent themselves by providing guidance, resources, and coaching.
I also did a video. I also did an audio. I also did a podcast interview